I walked into the courtroom exactly 27 minutes late. Her lawyer was already in the middle of presenting the motion, his voice echoing through the room like it belonged there. I could hear her laughter even before I pushed the heavy wooden doors open, bright, smug, rehearsed. And he was there too. Ethan, her colleague. The man who had spent the last 6 months standing too close, smiling too wide, and now he wore that same victorious smirk like he'd conquered something that never belonged to him in the first place. The judge glanced at me with a mix of irritation and curiosity. My seat sat empty like a statement they were proud of, a gaping void they leaned into with confidence, as if my absence was a sign of surrender. I didn't say a word. Just walked in slowly and handed a single folder to the bailiff. My eyes never left hers. The laughter died in her throat. They didn't know what was in that folder. But I did. It was the beginning of their unraveling, calm, cold, precise. And it hadn't started that morning. No. It began 3 months ago on a random Thursday night. I came home late from a client meeting and there it was, a single wine glass on the kitchen counter. Lipstick on the rim. Not her usual shade. Not mine. Next to it sat a hotel receipt tucked under a magazine. A place she swore she'd never been. A place we had never gone together. Rachel and I had been together 12 years. We were high school sweethearts, the couple people looked at and said, "You two are going to make it." We built everything from the ground up. Her home, my company, her rising career. We made vows and whispered promises in the dark, promising not to be like the others who drifted apart after the wedding rings started to lose their shine. She told me she loved photography, said she liked capturing fleeting moments before they disappeared. I should have paid more attention to how she said it, like it was a philosophy, not just a hobby. It started subtly. Late work nights. Dead phone batteries. Trips that didn't match the dates on her calendar. She changed her perfume, wore makeup to Zoom meetings, smiled differently. I told myself I was overthinking. That's what trust is, right? Giving someone the benefit of the doubt, even when the doubt feels like a scream inside your chest. But trust doesn't break like glass. It corrodes, like steel rusting in the rain, quietly, piece by piece, until you're left with something you can't stand on anymore. Then came Ethan. The business partner with a perfect smile and hands that lingered on her back just a second too long. I watched, not because I didn't trust her, but because she had stopped looking at me the way she used to. I wasn't in her eyes anymore. The night I knew, really knew, I came home earlier than planned. Her car was already there. The lights inside the house were dim, the kind of soft lighting you don't use when you're alone. A jazz song drifted through the walls, sultry and smooth. She used to say she hated jazz. Their clothes made a trail from the living room to the bedroom, my bedroom. The bed I had built, the sheets I had chosen. I didn't open the door. I stood outside listening. Her laugh. His voice. The rhythm of betrayal, tangled in whispers. I didn't scream. Didn't cry. I walked back to my car, drove to a 24-hour diner, ordered a cup of black coffee and stared out the window for 2 hours while the waitress refilled my cup 3 times and didn't ask questions. That's when I made a list. Not of what I had lost, but of what they would lose. First step, I disappeared emotionally. I became quiet, agreeable, understanding. I told her she was right more often than not. Gave her space. She mistook it for withdrawal. Guilt made her generous. That was useful. While she celebrated freedom, I moved in silence. I began transferring assets quietly. Shifted ownership of my business to a trust. Relocated funds to offshore accounts. Removed my name from the deed of the house she thought was her leverage. She thought she was winning. She didn't know I had contingency plans built into every part of my business for moments like this, though I'd never imagined I'd have to use them against her. I hired a private investigator, not to catch her but to confirm what I already knew. He was thorough. Photos. Receipts. Call logs. Hotel bookings. Even a recording of them planning how to bleed me dry in court. She laughed in it. Said I was too soft, too sentimental to fight back. So I made copies. Dozens. Digital backups. Uploaded them to secure drives spread across 3 continents. Dead man switches just in case they tried anything clever. Then I filed for divorce quietly. Let her think it was her idea. She served me papers first. Thought it was a power move. Told me to leave the house. Thought she was in control. And that folder I handed to the bailiff this morning? It was the first thread pulled from the edge of the mask she'd been wearing. Inside were the documents, the evidence, the recordings, the truth. Cold, undeniable, legal. Her laughter stopped the second our eyes met. And for the first time in months I smiled. I did leave the house, just like she asked, but not before I took everything that truly mattered. Not jewelry, not furniture, not sentimental trinkets. I took power. The original deed to the house, tucked away in a secure folder. The server access codes for systems she didn't even know were crucial. Contracts signed under my name, with fine print she had never bothered to read. Clauses that made her foundation collapse under the slightest legal pressure. She had built her case on surface wins, on appearances. But what she didn't know was that every thread she clung to had already started unraveling. Meanwhile, Ethan, so confident, so sure of his place in her future, quit his job. He thought he had a position waiting for him in my company. He didn't know that I had already terminated the offer a week earlier. In its place, I quietly hired a compliance officer. HR sent Ethan a formal letter the next morning. Offer retracted, due to pending litigation. I imagine his face when he read that. The arrogance slipping, the realization settling in. That alone was almost worth the betrayal. She filed for alimony, of course. Thought she'd bleed me through the courts. Assumed I'd be liable, that the judge would see her as the wounded spouse. But when her lawyer reviewed my financial disclosures, the numbers told a different story. Losses, loans, business debts, new liabilities. All of it legal. All of it recent. All of it now, hers. The empire she thought she'd conquer was a house of smoke and mirrors. The illusion worked just long enough to become hers to clean up. She thought she married a man who was soft, romantic, naive. But what she betrayed was something else entirely, a strategist. A man who built systems, backup plans, escape hatches. The night before the hearing, I sent her attorney a file. Neatly prepared. Professionally bound. It included the full extent of her infidelity, photos, dates, financial transactions. A timeline even she couldn't deny. And tucked near the back, my favorite piece. A notarized statement from Ethan's ex-wife, outlining how Rachel had once coached her to lie under oath during her own custody case. A history of manipulation. A pattern. I showed up late to court on purpose. Let them marinate in the idea that I was afraid. That I'd lost. That maybe I wouldn't even come. And when I finally walked in, calm and silent, and handed that folder to the bailiff, I didn't need to say much. Her laughter had already vanished. Her smile cracked. The judge flipped through the papers slowly, frowning with every turn. Her lawyer began to stammer, trying to spin. Ethan opened his mouth to speak but was swiftly silenced. Rachel sat frozen. She didn't utter a single word. I did. Just one sentence, looking her dead in the eye. Everything you thought was yours was never really real. Silence. The judge's ruling came down clean and sharp. Divorce granted. No alimony. No division of assets. Custody of nothing. Just the two of them sitting side by side, no longer confident, no longer smiling. Just two people who had bet everything on a lie and lost. And as I walked out of that courtroom, it wasn't rage that lingered. It was clarity. She had tried to erase me, to rewrite our history into something disposable, something shameful. But betrayal is an art. And revenge? Revenge is a discipline. The difference is that only one of them requires patience. And I had all the time in the world.